American troops are returning to their base in Germany after NATO military drills in the Baltics. I describe it as a parade, really. The vehicles are usually transported by rail, but U.S. commanders decided to drive the convoy all the way from training grounds in Estonia, Lithuania and Poland to a base in Germany. The ride kicked off on Saturday and will take more than a week. The troops are scheduled to make stops along the way to boast their heavy metal to the locals. Everyone, including children, are offered a chance to get to grips with the big guns. NATO officials have been quick to tweet photos of enthusiastic Estonians checking out the American vehicles during one of the first stops of the trip, and some of the soldiers are posting with pride on social networks. Not everyone is happy to see those babies, though. In the Czech Republic, which is on the route, anti-war activists launched a campaign called Tanks, No Thanks, to protest the procession. So far, the message is passed through street banners and social media. But in case they want to go further, there are potential penalties being set up. Anyone who tries to pelt the U.S. convoy with eggs or tomatoes could face up to 2 years in jail. If scuffles break out, protesters might get put away for up to 3 years. And if someone gets injured, people involved might get up to 10 years behind bars. Well, joining me in our Moscow studio is Asia Times correspondent Pepe Escobar. Pepe, thanks for being with us. NATO drills in the Baltics and Poland began early March. America deployed 750 Army tanks, helicopters, and other military vehicles, plus at least 15 fighter jets. 3,000 U.S. troops have joined the exercises, not to mention other NATO country members. 6 warships took part in the Black Sea drills: American, Canadian, Turkish, German, Italian, and Romanian. Some of the maneuvers took place just 300 meters from the Russian border. But it's Russian military drills which are raising more concern. They took place in several locations within Russia. Keyword, of course, here, within. More than 50,000 troops, though, involved, 50 warships, 17 submarines, dozens of fighter jets, and other equipment, including tanks and missile defense. Well, Russian drills seem to be raising more tension, according to the State Department. So Russian drills not okay. These massive shows of military strength seems to be okay with the Europeans. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, let me start on a lighter note. From American Sniper, now we have American Convoy. And it's even better because it's a blockbuster all over parts of Eastern Europe, in fact, and the Baltics. What's not so funny is the shadow play that is not a shadow play anymore. Now we have Russia testing NATO's perimeter and NATO's defense. And we have NATO trying to provoke Russia into doing something more outrageous. This could get really nasty, not now, but it could be a preview of what could go wrong in a few months if we keep on escalating like this. Because this is a provocation, I would say this is a provocation on both sides.
So both sides. I was going to ask you that because the show of arms within the Russian border is massive. NATO is also provoking. So where does this lead us?
Look, there are some adults in the Beltway in the U.S., contrary to a lot of enlightened public opinion around the world. And these scholars, in fact, they are saying this Cold War 2.0 could become a hot war, in fact, with the slight provocation running amok. And the possibility is there. I'm sure from the Russian side, the #1 priority is don't respond to provocations. But let's keep testing. Where are they going? How far can they go? Which means testing NATO's perimeter and forces all the time. And on the NATO side, we have a Dr. Strangelove in charge, which is General Philip Breedlove, that I prefer to call Breed Hate. He's the guy running the show. It's not the Norwegian, the Secretary General of NATO. We all know that. NATO is run by American generals. And this guy has been on the record saying that Russia is invading Ukraine every day, every morning, the next day. So this could get really out of control in a Dr. Strangelove scenario.
You're telling me that General Breed Hate, as you call him, and the generals in Russia and Russia as a government don't understand that any step in the wrong direction could be bad for everyone?
They do, but the thing is, we can also analyze it from a geopolitical point of view as the death of MAD, mutually assured destruction, which was the red line during the Cold War. I would say that looking at what happened in Ukraine for the past year or so, the concept of MAD is gone. So now they are playing with different red lines that don't even exist, in fact, provoking a response from the other side, but without having a sort of line of control in the back. They don't have this anymore. And what happens after this provocation could be an accidental launch of a ballistic missile, for instance. This could happen. This could happen. There are no constraints anymore.
All right, so how do you cool it down then?
Post-MAD apocalyptic environment.
Seriously, you're not
Seriously?
just
No, I'm
People would
not
accuse
joking.
you of scaremongering.
No, it's not scaremongering because some of my best, let's say, sources are people who are very close to industrial military complex, and two of the best American scholars, they agree with exactly what I'm telling you right now.
I want to talk about the Europeans because we saw a public push by France and Germany to cool things down in terms of Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Why are we not seeing them sort of quiet Washington down with this sort of military parade through Eastern Europe?
Because this spells out the difference between the EU and NATO. The whole Ukrainian operation, we can, let's say, on a 90% basis, it's a NATO operation from the start. The EU, of course, they thought that they had a horse in this whole thing, which would be Klitschko as the new ruler of Ukraine. It didn't work. This was plan A for Germany, especially in the EU, and there was no plan B. The Americans, no. The Americans, the plan A was always, let's expand NATO and let's try to grab Ukraine for our side, whatever means necessary. This is a story that has been covered so far. The point, where would it go from here? Now we have a failed state that is under civil war, that is divided between West and East. We have the eastern part of Ukraine who wants to, in fact, succeed from a state that doesn't exist anymore because it's based on hatred. The Kiev government that we have now is based on hatred, essentially. But the Americans, what they want NATO bases inside whatever is left of Ukraine. And they're not going to give up. Because the number one priority is not a nuclear deal with Iran, is not solving the Syria crisis, is not proclaiming Venezuela as a threat to American interests. The number one threat remains Russia. Why? I'll try to summarize with just one paragraph. The integration of Eurasia means Russia, China, and Germany, and parts of the EU, the parts that really work, doing business together. This is a process of integration that is going to take the next 10 years. It's going to be led by the Chinese, the Russian-Chinese partnership, and a closer relationship with Germany, from the point of view of German industrialists. When the Americans look at this, they say, we're going to be expelled from Eurasia. And Eurasia, like President Putin said in 2007, 2008, is Lisbon to Vladivostok. What the Chinese are doing, the new Silk Roads, which is Shanghai to Berlin, is the same thing. It's uniting Eurasia in a trade, commerce, bright future. And what the Americans are proposing, we're going to clash your dream, you're going to smash your dream. We don't want this kind of, because then we're going to be expelled from Eurasia. It's as simple as that.
It's really more global than it seems at first sight.
It's much more global. Ukraine is the keynote of a global confrontation, which we can put it basically Washington and NATO on one side, and the BRICS countries and the Eurasian Union and most of Asia on the other side.
All right, we're running out of time, so I have to ask you to be brief, but I want to touch on the media because they play a big role in this, and it's a dangerous situation, like you say. So how much responsibility do the media take?
Well, I would say that independent media in English all over the world now is essential because people don't trust Western mainstream media anymore. You just look at their ratings, they're losing audience, they're losing advertisers, you name it. So emerging sources of information in English from all over the world, now they can tell the story. As TV networks, as in the internet, as well as independent websites. So it's still a minority that's paying attention because, as we know, the middle classes all over the world, they need to survive. We still have in a global environment of economic crisis. But if they have 15 minutes where they can get the real story of what's going on, including these global ramifications, instead of looking at the TV and having a talking head talking stupidity, then we may have a brighter future.
That's a more positive note. I want to stop there. Asia Times correspondent Pepe Escobar in the flesh, in the now. Thanks so much.
Thank you.